really looked extensively, but I'm pretty sure that about somebody else besides myself might be wondering the same things about bankruptcy.
All right.
Is bankruptcies and bonds the same?
Bankruptcy and bonds?
Kind of like, or what's the tie between the two? That's what I should say.
All right. Let's do it this way. All right. All right. Bankruptcy. The state or condition of one who is bankrupt. Amenability to the bankrupt laws. The condition of one who has committed an act of bankruptcy and is liable to be proceeded against by his creditors, therefore, or of one whose circumstances are such that he is entitled on his voluntary application to take the benefit of the bankrupt laws. The term is used in a looser sense as synonymous with insolvency, inability to pay one's debts, the stopping and breaking up of business because the trader is broken down, insolvent, ruined. It constitutes a branch of equity jurisprudence. Its purpose is to secure finally to creditors distribution of value of at least part of debtor's assets and to bankrupt discharge from his debts, to end that creditors may be paid as much as may be and the bankrupt may have a new start in life. Insolvency means a simple inability to pay as debt should become payable, whereby the debtor's business would be broken up. Bankruptcy means the particular legal status to be ascertained and declared by a judicial decree. The proceedings taken under bankrupt law against a person or firm or company to have him adjudicated a bankrupt and to have his estate administered for the benefit of the creditors and divided among them. That branch of jurisprudence or system of law and practice which is concerned with the definition and ascertainment of acts of bankruptcy and the administration of bankrupt estates for the benefit of their creditor and the absolution and restitution of bankrupts. And all right. Bankrupt law. A law for benefit and relief of creditors and their debtors in cases in which the latter are unable or unwilling to pay their debts. Bankrupt, originally and strictly a trader who secretes himself or does certain other acts tending to defraud his creditors. In a looser sense, an insolvent person, a broken up or ruined trader. A person who has committed an act of bankruptcy, one who has done some act or suffered some act to be done in consequence of which, under the laws of his country, he is liable to be proceeded against by his creditors for the seizure and distribution among them of his entire property. Now now let me just get and you said bond, right?
Yes.
Bond, a certificate or evidence of a debt. A debt on which interest is paid. A deed whereby the obligor obliges himself, his heirs, executors, and administrators to pay a certain sum of money to another day to another at a day appointed. A mere promise to pay. A specialty or sealed instrument, and not merely a written instrument. A written obligation. An instrument which is not necessarily under seal. An instrument with a clause, with a sum fixed as a penalty, binding the parties to pay the same condition, however, that the payment of the penalty may be avoided by the performance by some one or more of the parties of certain acts. Obligation to pay interest embodied in bonds as included in word bonds. In Old Scot law, a bondman, a slave. Bonds are either single or double. A single bond is one which the obliger binds himself to his heirs to pay a certain sum of money to another person at a specified date. A double bond is one to which a condition is added that if the obliger does or forbears from doing some act, the obligation shall be void. Formerly such a condition was sometimes contained in a separate instrument and was then called a defeasance. Word bond in a statute means negotiable bonds. In word bonds in statute held applicable to a single bond. As a verb, to place under the conditions of a bond. To convert into a debt secured by bonds. To give bond for. As for duties on goods, to secure payment of duties by giving bond. Bonded, secured by bond. Bonded goods are those for the duties on which bonds are given. And then it goes into all these different bonds. Bond tenants, bond with surety, bond of state, bond of indebtedness, bond issue, bond of title, etc. Oh. Peace. Yeah. Yeah, it's alright. Yeah, so it goes into all these different bonds, right? So a bond is a certificate or evidence of a debt, right? So if we put this in relation to, if we put bond in relation to the birth certificate, right? The certificate is evidence of a debt. So if it's evidence of a debt, how come people are trying to claim $1 million accounts or whatever attached to it? Right? Just reading the definition of bond would show that we don't even need to go there. Like how we hear some people talk, you know, go and get the bond and all that, right? And with bankruptcy, condition of one who is bankrupt. Now, I used to work in collections, right? And one of the worst things that you can get when you were working collections was to get somebody who said they filed bankruptcy. Right? Because the work of a collection agent is to get payments. And you're not going to get payment from somebody who's bankrupt. Their file's basically closed. Right? But what's interesting about bankruptcy is that the credit card companies, they don't go after the stuff when you file bankruptcy up here. Right. So if you get a credit card, you run up a credit card $50,000, and then you file bankruptcy, right? You don't have to pay the debt back, but your credit gets affected for 7 years. Mm-hmm. But they don't go after the stuff that you bought.
Like when like when the government claims that you owe, let's say you owe for taxes,
Right.
and they come in and seize everything in the house.
Exactly, right? They don't do that with debts, right? And then they don't do that because it's fiat. You didn't pay for anything, so they can't come and get something that you didn't pay for, right? And then secondary to that, the people who gave you the credit, or who give the credit to people, they're registered to a bankrupt company, corporation. That's fronting like they're a country, right? So somebody's claiming that they're bankrupt, but the people who gave them credit are bankrupt. Which shows that everything is bookkeeping in an occupied society. When indigenous people's lands under occupation, the idea is for the people who are occupying to own nothing but control everything, right? Not have their hands on anything tangible, but have control of the things tangible through the people being in a bankrupt status, but then not letting the people know that they're bankrupt. Because if the people know that the government's bankrupt, then they would know that they don't need to go get credit cards and loans and all that. Because they're bankrupt. Like if they're in the negative, how are they able to give a credit which is a positive?
Is this, I don't know, is it, okay, is that what the birth certificate is for? Is that the connection there with the birth certificate? I came across something before it said, when those birth certificates are like exchanged for the U.S. to borrow money from other countries. You know anything about that?
Right, because it's evident, like they're using the birth certificate to prove that they're in debt.
Okay.
So they can get money from people.
Right.
They're using the birth certificate to prove that we have no money.
Okay.
Right? And if you don't have money, then you're entitled to get a lender.
Right.
You can get a lender, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it just depends on the lender, whether they're gonna give it to you or not.
Right.
But the lender's only gonna give money to somebody who's in debt if they have collateral.
Right.
That's where the people being attached to the birth certificates comes in for them getting the money, because the people are going to be the collateral.
Right, okay.
That they're going to say, okay, well, if we can't pay the debt back, just take the name that's on that.
Mm-hmm.
And all our energy pays off.
Right.
Any questions about that? What was that question? Between the bankruptcy and
Right, because the energy of the people, right? The energy of the people is what's being used to claim that they have some type of collateral, right? When they really don't have any collateral, because they're a bankrupt entity pretending to have some type of authority to do things like create birth certificates, create licenses, create etc., etc. But once the people proclaim their nationality, right, it kills all those instruments. Those instruments are no longer able to be used as collateral. Right? Let's go. We'll go to King Alfred plan. Right? And this is the section. This is the section on energy. Right? Energy is recognized as the key to all activity on Earth. Natural science is the study of the sources and control of natural energy, and social science, theoretically expressed as economics, is the study of the sources and control of social energy. Both are bookkeeping systems, mathematics. Therefore, mathematics is the primary energy science, and the bookkeeper can be king if the public can be kept ignorant of the methodology of the bookkeeping. All science is merely a means to an end. The means is knowledge, the end is control. Right? Just like we were talking. Own nothing, control everything. Right? Beyond this remains only one issue. Who will be the beneficiary? In 1954, this was the issues of primary concern. Although the so-called moral issues were raised in view of the law of natural selection, it was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Such a people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. Right? In view of the law of natural selection, it was agreed. Right? So people came together and agreed on this. Right? It was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence, right, Negro, black, colored, Latinos, Hispanics, poor whites, everybody who calls themselves something that they're not. If they do not use their intelligence, are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Such a people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. Right? So not only did they choose to be in this position of no intelligence and to be stakes on the table, but they also consented to it.
Tactic procuration.
Say that again?
Tactic procuration.
Right. So nobody's responsible but them for the situation that they're in. That's why we can't call or draw the race card. That's why KKK could do what they do. Right? Because if the people have no intelligence, then you're a stake on the table and, man's getting ready to put the fork in you. Because you consented, first of all, to be a stake when you're living entity or whatever, right? You consented because there was some type of contract that you signed, you didn't reserve your rights on it or whatever. And once you sign that paper, now you're pretty much cookable. Because you signed the paper without reserving your rights. Or you consented, right? Actually, let's check that quick fast. Consent, so we can be clear on what people are agreeing to. Or what it means for them to agree. Right? Consent. Consent. A concurrence of wills, voluntarily yielding the will to the proposition of another, acquiescence or compliance. Agreement, the act or result of coming into harmony or accord. Consent is an act of reason, accompanied with deliberation, the mind weighing as in a balance the good or evil on each side. It means voluntary agreement by a person in possession and exercise of sufficient mentality to make an intelligent choice to do something proposed by another. It supposes a physical power to act, a moral power of acting, and a serious, determined, and free use of these powers. Consent is implied in every agreement. It is an act unclouded by fraud, duress, or sometimes even mistake. There is a difference between consenting and submitting. Every consent involves a submission, but a mere submission does not necessarily involve consent. Consent is an active acquiescence as distinguished from assent, meaning a silent acquiescence. Consent means an active circumstance of concurrence. Assent is a passive act of concurrence before another does the act charged, but the two terms may be used interchangeably. Consent is sometimes synonymous merely with waiver. As used in the law of rape, consent means consent of the will. The submission under the influence of fear or terror cannot amount to real consent. There must be an exercise of intelligence based on knowledge of its significance and moral quality, and there must be a choice between resistance and assent. And if a woman resists to the point where further resistance would be useless, or until her resistance is overcome by force or violence, submission thereafter is not consent. Then there's different kinds of consent: express consent, implied consent, consent rule, and that's it, right? So consent, right? Such people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. Consequently, in the interest of future world order, peace, and tranquility, it was decided to privately wage a quiet war against the American public, with an ultimate objective of permanently shifting the natural and social energy, wealth of the undisciplined and irresponsible many into the hands of the self-disciplined, responsible, and worthy few. In order to implement this objective, it was necessary to create, secure, and apply new weapons, which, as it turned out, were a class of weapons so subtle and so sophisticated in their principle of operation and public appearance as to earn for themselves the name silent weapons. In conclusion, the objective of economic research, as conducted by the magnates of capital, banking, and the industries of commodities, goods, land, services, is the establishment of an economy which is totally predictable and manipulatable. In order to achieve a totally predictable economy, the low-class elements of society must be brought under total control, i.e., must be housebroken, trained, and assigned a yoke and long-term social duties from a very early age before they have an opportunity to question the propriety of the matter. In order to achieve such conformity, the lower class family unit must be disintegrated by a process of increasing preoccupation of the parents and the establishment of government-operated daycare centers for the occupationally orphaned children. The quality of education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort, so that the meat of ignorance, isolating the inferior class from the superior class, is and remains incomprehensibly to the inferior class. With such an initial handicap, even bright lower class individuals have little, if any, hope of extricating themselves from their assigned lot in life. This form of slavery is essential to maintaining some measure of social order, peace, and tranquility for the ruling upper class. And keep in mind that everything that we read right there is what all the black leaders know. That's why they push that passive approach with the people. That's why they push that idea of marching and picketing for rights and stuff like that. Because once you get the people in that position of that initial handicap, right? They can't even consider getting themselves out of the mess that they're in. They would just, it's like I think it was Carter G. Woodson with the slave. If something with the slave being if there's no door, the slave will create a door in order to stay in slavery or whatever like that. Even though he can get out of slavery, he will do everything that he can to stay enslaved. Right? Like Harriet Tubman. If I would have saved many more if they only knew that they were slaves. Right? Okay? So and this is where the importance of nationality is. Because what nationality does is that it takes that energy that's just out there and brings it together so it can be used as a force, right? Opposed to having lots of power, right? So, there's the ball players over here and they got some power because, they got fiat power. And then there's the entertainers over here and they got power. Then there's the politicians down there, they got power. And then these people over here, they have power. But there's no force. Just power. Scattered. But if all those individuals were to nationalize and bring their fiat notes, right? Now we have force. Because we have the ability now, with fiat power, since fiat's what's running the world, right? And they've already done they already have the statistics to show that the quote unquote black spending power is the highest in the world compared to everybody else. We have the least, but we spend more than everybody else. How is that even possible? I don't know. We claim that we have the least, right? We supposedly have nothing, but we spend more than anybody else. Right? You want more King Alfred plan? Because there's a little bit more with this energy thing. Mr. Rothschild's energy discovery. What Mr. Rothschild had discovered was the basic principle of power, influence, and control over people as applied to economics. That principle is, when you assume the appearance of power, people soon give it to you. Mr. Rothschild had discovered that currency or deposit loan account and the required appearance of power that could be used to induce people into surrendering their real wealth in exchange for a promise of greater wealth. They would put up real collateral in exchange for a loan of promissory notes. Mr. Rothschild found that he can issue more notes than he had backing for, so long as he had someone's stock of gold as a persuader to show to his customers. Mr. Rothschild loaned his promissory notes to individuals and to governments. These would create overconfidence. Then he would make money scarce, tighten control of the system, and control the collateral through the obligation of contracts. The cycle was then repeated. These pressures could be used to ignite a war. Then he would control the availability of the currency to determine who would win the war. That government which agreed to give him control of its economic system got his support. Collection of debts was guaranteed by economic aid to the enemy of the debt. The profit derived from this economic methodology made Mr. Rothschild all the more wealthy and all the more able to extend his wealth. He found that the public greed would allow currency to be printed by government order beyond the limits, inflation, of backing in precious metal or the production of goods and services. So he recognized that, one, if the people are ignorant to what's going on behind the scenes, right? If they don't see the feet under the curtain, they're just gonna think it's just curtain there. Right? Now that he's behind the curtain and nobody knows that he's the one that's running the show of everything, right? He can now manipulate because everybody's coming to him, right? But they're coming to him under the guise that he has fiat power. Just like Farrakhan has fiat power and he can get Washington DC to go do a march. And then he's gonna go do the march and go to the mic and condemn the people who gave him Washington. And they're not gonna come shut him down. Because they have fiat power. Right? He's able to go to Gaddafi. Go meet Gaddafi and all that. He's just a black leader. He's not no government official or national or nothing like that. But he's able to go meet Gaddafi and go get $2 million to start up black hair products or whatever. Which we have yet to still see. And Gaddafi's dead now. And nobody could show any black hair products owned by the NY. And it's a bona fide fact that they got $2 million for that. Right? You know, so what were they doing? Were they really getting money from Gaddafi to do something for the people? Or, you know, was that a ploy to show that they have fiat power, so they can get anything that they want on this side? By the same, you know, the same Rothschild's game, you know what I mean? Give the appearance, you know, it's like the peacock with the feathers, and they buff the tail and see whoever's tail buffs the biggest, then that's the king, right? And everybody's falling for the play. Mm-hmm. Everybody's getting game, right? Everybody's getting game because everybody's under the appearance that paper is money. Everybody's falling for the game that paper is money. Right? And if let's say we did have gold and silver in our possession, we're not going to, you know, McDonald's, Burger King or whatever to go buy sandwich with a piece of gold. Right? Like, it ain't happening like that. Why? Because they're not going to be able to give you golden change. And remember that all agencies, offices, etc. in the U.S. corporation are bankrupt and dissolved. So they have absolutely no power, which and it all comes back again to nationality and why it's so extremely important to nationalize. So at least you can be able to make a claim on whatever is left. You know? It's like Detroit. More should be running to Detroit to go claim all that property over there that's bankrupt right now. Like, they should, because China's doing it. You go do your research on China buying out Detroit. China's buying out Detroit right now. Like, you would think that they're in China the way they're buying Detroit right now. China buying Detroit.
It's not a surprise.
Right? How is China able to come to America and buy Detroit? Because they're Moabites. They have claim to the Moroccan Empire, no different than Moors have claim to the Moroccan Empire, because they're Moors too. And they're coming over here and they're doing what they got to do. Not only here, they're going to South Africa and they're claiming all the mines over there. Because those Negroes over there want to say that they're African and have African League and madness, when that's South Asia. And Chinese know that that's South Asia, which means they have claim over there. You know?
What the sovereign guys, Alfred say, go back to Asia, huh?
Yeah.
Go back to Asia.
Yeah. Because the sovereign guys. The sovereign guys don't give up as much as they know. The sovereign guys are playing the sovereign guys are fooling us into thinking that they have the remedy, right? When the remedy that they have is only for them to keep the little bit of stuff that they got that was left over from when the people who they're running from when they came over here, right? That they got. You know, that's why we don't mess with those guys. Don't take their information, don't use their information, don't even apply anything that those guys say, because everything that they have is fraud. They could call themselves sovereign, whatever. All of those guys are Europeans. And this is in Europe. So they have no claim here. I don't care.
What did he say, Cujo, in the same breath? He said, my forefathers were slaves. I'm a sovereign.
Right. Right? Right? His forefathers were slaves and were brought to America. Right? But you're calling yourself free man. How could you come over here as a slave? So you came over here as a slave, so you're in land that's not yours, and then say that you're a free man. Right? That's like European Dred Scott right there. Because the only place that they're free is in Europe. And they're lucky.
That's because we gave it to them.
And if they're lucky, because 2 weeks ago I got an email from some Moors in Britain who want to know about birthrights. If they're lucky, they can go back to Europe. Because Moors are claiming over there too. Little do they know that there's Moors in Britain on nationality and birthrights, and they might have to go a little bit further north than Europe when they go back over there. You know, history repeats itself, you know? Right? You know?
This time around, we have to make better choices or be in the same situation again.
Exactly. Right? Because history repeats itself. Right? Period. History repeats itself. So when we you know, that's why when we do our research on these freedmen and these sovereign citizen Europeans, you realize that, you know, how come they never called themselves Europeans? How come they never called themselves who they are? They always call themselves child of God, and they have child of God status, and you know, they're free men on the land and they're sovereign citizens and all this, when they're European.
And they never answer when, I notice when you ask them, what's your nationality, they never answer. They don't ever answer.
Exactly. Because if they do, that means you're not sovereign. Because status is the first issue at law. And they might put up a good front, you know what I mean? Because remember, majority of those freedmen that we see today, majority of the freedmen that we see today, they were sitting in some Morse classes sometime in their learning. Guaranteed. Because that's one of the things that got us, that, you know, for maybe like 2 years we're up here, you know, prior to maybe a year. Prior to coming into Moorish knowledge, we were listening to free men, Europeans, the fraud of the birth certificate and the fraud of, you know, governments or corporations, blah blah blah. I'm like, damn, like this is real, you know. So you do some research, you know, but we're not seeing any sources that look like us. All the sources that they're referring is European sources, right? And then let me back up a little bit. Maybe 2 years before that, so let's say 2005, 2004, we used to do all these lectures out here, right? So when we connected with Black Dot connected us with Sa to get some DVDs, right? So we connect with Sa, we get these DVDs, and we have about 500 DVDs, you know, like one of the brothers, we just sent him, you know, to New York. Everybody put up $100 and he just went there with a stack and hit off Sa with a stack so we can get some DVDs over here, right? So we come back, so we're watching all these DVDs, you know, like staying up, you know, like 24 hours just watching DVDs, DVD after DVD, just popping them in, right? And putting a Taj DVD, driver's license fraud. Maybe watch 2 minutes of it. And I was like, I don't even know what the hell this guy's talking about. I don't know about, you know, I'm not black and all this stuff, like whatever. I don't know what he's talking about. The guy has a funny hat on. I don't know what this guy's about. Let me just put this to the side and let it, you know, whatever. I'm not watching that. So going on, you know, just going through DVDs, you know what I mean? Right? And then bumped into the information, the free man information, right? That was 2005. And then we brought Alim Bey here, and Alim Bey kind of opened us up a little bit to the Moorish paradigm, some more, but it still wasn't really registering, you know what I mean? accepted, you know, it was understood, but it wasn't understood on the level where we're at right now. You know what I mean? It was real surface, you know what I'm saying? That we're Moors or whatever. So, you know, then we get into this freedman information or whatever, and something, I can't remember what it was, you know, it was probably just the spirit, the ancestors and all that. They said, yo, put that DVD in again. You know what I mean? And I remember because we had all the DVDs we had were in spools, right? So we had maybe like 10 spools of DVDs. So I'm like just going through all these DVDs, you know what I mean? And all I remembered was how the writing looked on the DVD. Right, so I'm going through all these DVDs, like spools and spools and spools, like almost gave up because I'm like, yo, I don't know where this DVD is. Out of all these DVDs, there's this one DVD, this guy wearing this funny hat, like I need to find this DVD again. Found the DVD, put the DVD in, I'm sitting there, I'm like, hold on a second. This guy's saying the same thing that these Europeans are talking about. Birth certificate fraud, naming all capital letters, you know what I mean? Going down the line. So I actually decided, okay, now let me just take this in now and see what's really good. You know what I mean? And after I finished watching that, I was like, you know what? If I'm really talking about being conscious and being for my people and all that, I'm not listening to these Europeans talking about rights and law or whatever. I'm listening to this guy because this is my brother. You know what I mean? And from that point right there is when it kick-started, you know, into realizing that, okay, there's you know, I should have watched this DVD friggin' 4 years ago or whatever. You know what I mean? Because it finally hit home, right? Now, mind you, all the European freeman information was a warm-up, you know what I mean? Because it was clearing up our concepts about, you know, the whole, you know, birth certificate fraud and the all capital letters fraud and all that, you know what I mean? It was bringing it to the surface and making it something to actually have on your mind, going through the wallet, checking all the cards, when the mail comes, checking the mail, you know, yo, actually I really think it really is in all capital letters or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So it did assist in bringing that information to the surface, but you know, the depth of the information, trust me, all those guys studied under somebody who said that there are more.
Brother Cujo.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I got a quick question for you. You was just talking about the birth certificates and, you know, and in the all capital letters or what have you. And I noticed something that happened with me over the years. I can recall having my birth certificate when I was younger, and everything was spelled in all capital letters. But you know how you lose one of those birth certificates along the way and you have to go request another replacement?
Right.
Now I notice that it's in upper and lowercase.
Right.
Now, it doesn't matter how they spell your name once you claim your nationality. They can spell it however they want to. Because once you claim your nationality, it doesn't make a difference either way, does it?
Right. No, it doesn't. Because that, well, also too, you have to consider this, that the reason why they might not, if you go and get a reissued birth certificate, the reason why it's not going to be in all capital letters is because they already sold the bond.
Right, that bond was sold at birth.
That bond's sold already, so you know they can't create another one. You know what I mean? Because that'll be fraud on the people who they sold it to.
Right. So let me ask you this: what happens if a court sends you documents in upper and lowercase letters?
If a court does it, let me just find this thing right here.
Oh, hold on. Courts. color of law, of course.
Right.
Still. Because it seems like then they're trying to assign or address you in your natural person status.
Right.
By not putting it in all capitals, but how can they do that when they're not even a natural person? Of course, yeah, it's tactic. But again, my question goes back to, even if they do that with their quote-unquote courts, once you claim their nationality, that still doesn't mean anything, because anything that was done then, we can always fix what was done then for now, not pro ton, now for then. So
Right.
it doesn't matter what they do.
Right.
Always be correct.
Well, they're putting the name in all capital letters because remember that when all capital letters isn't just the straw man, right? All capital letters is also a corporation,
Right,
corporate person,
right.
which has nothing to do with birth certificate or nothing like that. That's just a corporate person, right? All capital letters is also a nom de guerre, a warning, right? Which has nothing to do with the birth certificate or anything like that. It's just a warning, right? So there's these layers, right? That they, peel off and use at their discretion, because of the fact that they're corporate,
Right.
and the only thing that they can do is through a corporate interface, right? So they have to engage us on a corporate level in order for them to be able to do whatever it is that they're going to do, whether it's adjudicate, whether it's fine you, dismiss it, whatever. They have to deal with like when they say challenge the jurisdiction of the court, and if the jurisdiction is challenged, the case must be dismissed, right? In the Supreme Court case, right? Most of the time, they're dismissing because they don't want the information to get out. They're not dismissing because they're following what the Supreme Court said. They're dismissing because if they don't dismiss, then everybody's gonna know what's going on.
Because then it's on the public record.
Yeah, because it's really supposed to, like, if you challenge the jurisdiction of the court, they're actually supposed to say, okay, you know what, for the record, we don't have delegation of authority order, we don't have blah, 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 so we're gonna dismiss this, right? But they'll just say, okay, you know what, go outside, talk to the prosecutor, and then they'll do it secretly and dismiss it, right? Closed chambers hearings and things of that nature. Right? But what we have to remember is that the position that they take of saying the name or putting the name in all capital letters, etc. It's strictly so that they're dealing with a corporate entity.
That's how they are able to conduct business.
To conduct business.
Because they can't do business with
a natural person. Right.
Yes.
Right. They can't do business that way. The
So-
only way they can do business is through a corporate person. But the initial step is the birth certificate in all capital letters, for them to create all these later layers that we're talking about now. But for them to have these later layers, they had to have fed off of the fact that there was a birth certificate in all capital letters somewhere down the line. Right?
So the fact that a court, we know what we're saying, but a court sent me documents written in upper and lowercase letters doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter, because once I claim my nationality, it's null and void.
Right. it's null and void. But remember that if you don't take the position of disclaiming that, right? Like, you know, when people say, well, I proclaim my nationality, so I'm not going to deal with that because that's not my name. Right? Like, that's not the position. Right? Because what they're going to do is they're going to ex parte. Right? Ex parte. On one side only. By or for one party. Done for, in behalf of, or on the application of one party only. A judicial proceeding, order, injunction, etc. is said to be ex parte when it is taken or granted at the instance and for the benefit of one party only, and without notice to or consultation by any person adversely interested. Right? So as a national, you're adversely interested in the all capital letters name, trial, case, whatever that they're bringing up. Right? Because they're trying to attach that to you when you know that that's not you. But if you say that's why they always, you might hear people talk about, well, you know, I went to court and you know, I said my free national name and the judge said, well, get out of here, just leave. And then they say, oh, you know, he said leave, so I'm out of here. Right? This is when they ex parte. So after you leave, they continue with the case. Right? And they call the name, you know, Jeff Johnson here? No, Jeff Johnson here, okay, issue bench warrant for him. Right? And then most of the time, when we deal with Moorish nationality, etc., we don't inform our immediate family and community of this information. So now, when they issue the bench warrant, first place they're going to go to is who signed the birth certificate, right? And when they go to who signed the birth certificate, more than likely they're going to agree that, yeah, I know that person, right? They're gonna be the overseer or the slave master of that ward, and they'll give you a, well, yeah, Jeff Johnson, yeah, he lives down at 15, whatever. Oh, so you don't know him as, you know, the LB? I don't know what that is. I never heard that name before, right? Which is our bad for not telling those people. When these people come up here saying Jeff Johnson, make sure you let them know that there's nobody called Jeff Johnson, that my name's LB. Right? Especially individuals who are frequent with the courts. Always have something in there, you know, even if it's small stuff, and then they proclaim their nationality. It's imperative that you let the surrounding people know that you did that act, right? Or you went through that process of proclaiming your nationality. Whether they're Negro, black, colored, whether they go with it or not, you have to put them on notice as well. Not just these government officials and so-called government officials and, you know, people who we think need to be put on notice, right? Because they're gonna use your own brother, sister, uncle, aunt, mom, dad, or whatever against you. You know what I mean? When they do the bench warrants and all that type of stuff, right? So and ex parte is you know, like, ex parte is something that we learned because one brother went to court and that happened. He left the court, right? And the Moors that went with him stayed in the court. And then they heard the language, you know. Oh, well, we're gonna have to ex parte this case because you know, we're calling the name and so is not here and he's not coming up, so we're just gonna have to ex parte this case. And and the judge is like, well, he was here and he was saying that his different name, whatever, and the prosecutor was just on the judge, like, yo, we could ex parte, he's not here. And the judge is like, well, he said that his name was, whatever, you guys aren't gonna recognize his name that he just said that he is. Well, we don't know him by that name, we know him by this name, we don't know him by AKA or whatever like that, we know him by Jeff Johnson. That's the name that was on the driver's license, that's the name that's on the birth certificate, that's the name that's on the whatever. If he can't show any documentation, if he can't show any government issued documentation that he changed his name, then we're going with the fact that his name is on this license that we have, and we have our witness right here. All of our people are here. So if our people are here, why can't we ex parte the case? And then the judge is like, okay, yeah, all right, put your claim on the record.
So he should have sent writs before him, right?
Right. Well, yeah. Well, that sending the writs before is standard, but what I'm saying is, like, it's not about leaving. Even if they say leave, you don't leave because they're gonna ex parte, right? And once they ex parte, they're gonna issue a bench warrant in the name of the nom de guerre, or the straw, or the ward, or the birth certificate name, whatever, driver's license name, or whatever, right? And once they take that fake warrant to somebody who who they're good. They do their homework, right? So they're gonna go to somebody who that they don't know that name that you proclaimed. All they have to do is just pull your phone record. There it is, go down the list. Oh, he never called this person. You know what I mean? You never called this person in 2 years. All right, let's go hit them up. We know they know him, or the number wouldn't be in the phone. And we know that they know him as the name that we have. And then
that being the case, wouldn't it make sense for a brother or a sister to go to court with someone that does know them by their newly proclaimed name as well?
Exactly. That's why we say to hell with notary and use witnesses. And the witnesses that you use are going to be the nationals that are in your immediate jurisdiction. And then that's who you go to court with. Right? So that if it does come up to who, like there was, funny that we're using this too, there was a freedman case, Vancouver or somewhere like that, where there was that issue. The issue was, are you this name or are you not this name? And the freedman was saying, I'm not this name, right? And the freedman's evidence was somebody that he brought, right? And he put them on the stand. He's like, do you know this name? Well, I don't know who that is. Have you ever seen this name before? No. Do you know me by this name? No, I don't know you by that name. Do you know that name? No, I don't know. And the judge dismissed it because he had a witness, right, to prove that the other people were running a fraud and trying to put him under a name that wasn't his name. Right? So yeah, if it's good to go with people who are part of your nation, right? So that they can see that you're not a island, so they can see that you're actually a landmass. You're not an island floating in the ocean. You're actually a broader, bigger jurisdiction than even them. Because the whole point is to get the people to not be unified, so they can pick us off easier, right? And I mean, and again, you don't even have to, you know, like there's a sister out here who she's been battling some bank or whatever that's taken her to court for some credit card debt or something, right? And she's going in by herself, her and her husband, and that's it. You know what I mean? And all we do is we just seal her paper. Yo, go do your thing. You know what I mean? And up to now, like it's to the point now where the lawyers who were hired by the bank, they're now taking like her court, like, okay, it's small claims court, right? So because it's small claims court, the court's not the one that is going to be letting you know that there's court. The lawyers have to do that, right? And the lawyers are taking her court, not hers, you know, they have the straw name, right? They're taking the papers for court that are in the straw name to the neighbor and telling the neighbor, here, give this to whatever. Or they take it to the house and they give it to just somebody in the house. You know, there's not a door, yeah, this is for so-and-so, and they leave, right? And then, you know, the last time what happened, you know, the last time what happened was they left it with somebody and she got it on the day of the court date. Right? And now, you know, because it's small claims, it's not like, you know, it's not no warrant thing or nothing like that, you know what I mean? But to show how diabolical they are, the level that they'll go to try to make it seem like you're the one that's in default.
Mm-hmm.
When she already sent them writs, they didn't reply to, you know what I mean? Sent them default judgment, they didn't reply to. Sent them all types of paperwork, they didn't reply to anything, right? And they were trying to connect her to the sovereign movement. When she says in her that she's Moorish American and she has nothing to do with the sovereignty movement in her paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
Is that why when you send the rich, you CC lots of people?
Right. CC as many people as you can, right? Because the CC is mainly to let other people know about the criminal activity that's going on in the jurisdiction where you as a national are residing. You know?
Did this electronically via email?
Any way possible that you can get it to them. You know? Because as we know, you know, registered mail could get expensive.
Yeah.
Certified mail.
Yeah.
But yeah, email, fax. You know what I mean? Because remember, it's just you know, you're not expecting any replies from those people, right? It's just notice, right? No different than when, for example, in my building, right? In my building, every first of the month, the landlord they put up these frames, right? They have these frames by the elevator and in the elevator that they can just put notices in about whatever. Every first of the month, they have a notice. Notice, rent's due. This is just to inform you that, you know, the first of the month, you know, rent's due, we accept, you know, cash, money order, blah, 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 blah. You know, make sure your checks are in the whatever, blah. Thank you, management. Every first of the month. Right? So that way, if people are late, they have no excuse. Because you always put on notice that you need to get your rent in. It's first of the month. You know? if they're shutting off water. You know, just to let you know, water is going to be shut off on August 7th, 5 p.m. You know, make sure you turn off your faucets and blah, 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 whatever. Thank you, management. You know, and then management signed the blue ink signature. Right? It's the exact same thing what Moors are doing. Putting them on notice. Right? They don't care who sees that. There are people come visit me that don't live here. They see that. Well, they're put on notice. You know what I mean? Most of the time, if a notice is, real important, somebody who has nothing to do with it will tell you, hey, yo, you see that notice that, they're going to be demolishing your building tomorrow? What notice? Yeah, down at the bus stop, they got a notice down there that, they got a wrecking ball tomorrow, 5 o'clock, they're demolishing your building. You didn't see that? No, I didn't see that. Well, they're demolishing your building tomorrow. You know what I mean? Somebody will tell you if it's a serious enough notice, right? So put that in context of, somebody that, National Rifle Association, you put on notice about some writs that, this is your position, right? Somebody in the NRA who knows somebody in the city of whatever is gonna let them know, yo, did you guys get the notice from Kudrow about, nationality proclamations and no jurisdiction and all that type of stuff? We got some email, some facts from some guy named Kudrow about this thing. Do you guys know about that? No, we don't know about that. Well, here's a copy. You need to probably take a look at this because he has your name in there and your picture. And he's saying that you're committing fraud. Right? Things will start turning around when you start putting people on notice about criminal activity. Things will change immediately. And that's what we have to do. We're not putting it's just like when Brother Tyler says, well, when you go to court, you're not going to court because you have a case. You're going to court to free all those people who are in there paying 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 80, 90, 1,000, 5,000 in debt notes for fines that people not even supposed to be paying. You know what I mean? We're putting on notice to wake up people. We're putting on notice that hopefully somebody gets this message that nationality is the order of the day. It's just like on Facebook there was a post about some police beating up some dude or whatever. You know what I mean? So I made the statement, well, if he had a nationality, that wouldn't be happening to him. Because status is the first issue. You know what I mean? And I don't know how much ever people, 20 people or whatever, that liked this video of these police beating up this dude, right? One individual said, hold on a second, so you mean that if he was in a different status, then this wouldn't be happening to him? Yeah, exactly. Because more than likely he wouldn't be there if he's in a mind frame of national. You're not hanging out on the corner or at the corner store or whatever. You're home studying. That alone is going to get you out of trouble. You know what I mean? What's your focus on? That's just like we're saying with Trayvon Martin. If he was vegetarian, he wouldn't be interested in those Skittles and Arizona iced tea. He would have made himself a smoothie. stayed his ass home. And we wouldn't be talking about nothing right now. You know? Because the idea of nationality changes your mindset. It makes you consider before you do things. You not just do things haphazardly. You're gonna think before you do something, because you know that if you don't think about what you do, judgment's catching you. You know what I mean? If you don't think before you do something, you are gonna get warning, and some warnings actually hurt you. You know? And our people fail to realize the divine nature of nationality. You know? They continually think that Moors are trying to push some religion on people. We're not no religious idiots. We don't care about no religion. You know what I mean? We're presenting information so that people can change their mind frame. Because as a man thinketh, or as a woman thinketh, so is he or she. Period. And if you're thinking that you're black, then don't worry, here comes the darkness. Dark clouds over you every day, all day. Thunderstorm over you only. Everybody else has sunshine. You're sitting there with dark clouds over you, wonder why. Blaming the devil. You know? Like, and it's real simple. That's why Noble Drew Ali kept the books little. You know, 101 questionnaire is 8 pages or whatever. Holy Quran's 40 something pages. Like, what more do you need than that? Save yourself. But people don't want that. They want, they want 500 books Malachi York wrote or whatever. You know? And you ask them something from any of them books, they can't even quote nothing.
The book of Matthew Netter.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Right? They want a book, Meadow Netter, and nature's out there, and they don't even go talk to trees and ants and stuff like that. But they have a book about Meadow Netter, and they're saved because they have a Meadow Netter book. Right? They have 42 laws of Ma'ad, and Dead Sea Scrolls, and all the Apocrypha and Book of the Maccabees and all this stuff, and they don't even know their nationalities. You know what I mean? You go ask a Buddhist about what his nationality is. You go ask a Hindu about what their nationality is. You know? And you'll see and recognize that majority of people on the planet don't care about religion. Their religion is irrelevant. They just do that like, it don't matter. They just do that. It's just something to do. They don't care about no religion. There's a more divine order going on. You know? They really don't care about religion. It's irrelevant to them what God you worship. They don't care. We're the only ones that care. What's your religion? Want to know what somebody's religion is, and if they're not our religion, then you're a devil worshiper. You know what I mean? Nothing's new under the sun. Everybody gets rays casted on them. That's like the lady on Good Friday last year. Lady running up to me with her flyer. Yeah, Jesus, praise Jesus, the Lord and Savior. He's the Christ came to save you, or whatever. I'm like it's a beautiful day. Jesus is shining bright today. Thanks for your flyer. What do you mean? Well, you know Jesus is the Son, right? What do you mean Jesus is the Son? Yeah, Jesus is the Son. Jesus is not some European man that you're worshiping. Jesus is the Son. Lady took her flyer back, called me the devil. Right? Took her flyer back. You know what I mean? Right?
That's not very Christian, what?
Right? You know what I'm saying?
I wanted you to talk about names also.
Oh,
Names.
Names? Alright.
I want you to talk about names.
Alright. Let me see.
Yeah, something about that.
Alright. This is RVB. Nomen substantivum. Get this off. You can get this off RVB. Page 40. Name culture. Name culture. In ancient Asiatic cultures, nomen substantivum began. Rules of nomen culture were established on a universal scale. Asiatics named their seed offspring according to the astrological sign under which the child was born, with refined observations of the sun sign, moon sign, ascendant, and calculated family considerations. The signs and planetary aspects determines the general characteristics of the child by the laws of nature. A name for the offspring child may have been chosen from a group of names that harmonize with those characteristics. Parents would creatively make phonetic variations of the various known or accepted names, utilizing the root or core attributes. This common method of naming the seed offspring is based on the cosmic harmonies and the apparent nature of the child. Parents usually name their child sometime after the natural birth so that they could get to know the spirit of the child. The child will, in most cases, let you know who they are through nuance and natural constitutional makeup. Mothers in these days need to be reintroduced to their ancient culture and learn the mathematical and divine principles of ancient cosmology. They will come to recognize that it is not a process that was haphazard, spiritless, or wanton, and will learn that it was well thought out. Once we resurrect the culture and begin to utilize these natural laws methods, we won't have to go through the needed process of name corrections. The so-called blacks, Negroes, Indians, coloreds, African Americans, etc. would learn to shun utilizing the slave-deluding European surnames. The present-day name misplacement is a commission of fraud on their part. Therefore, we don't want to bring our children into a state-ward status which constitutes nomenclature, fraud, and pedigree bloodline fraud. It is also very, very important to never sign a corporate state-issued birth certificate. The birth certificate has been traditionally used as a bond by the corporate state politicians without the knowledge of the people. As a bond, it has been utilized to place your child in debt bondage, to transfer private corporate debt against the child, as well as to generate finance revenues for the corporate state under the nom de guerre and strawman construct. The administrators and representatives of the hospitals under the Demo Union State Society jurisdiction are instructed to firmly encourage you to sign the surety bond revenue-raising birth certificate before leaving the hospital. A bond claim and debt will be placed against your newborn child. The administrators are in conspiracy with the corporate state. See Black Codes 1724 AD. Even if the individual employees may not recognize the deception, saying they are only, quote-unquote, doing their jobs, do not be intimidated by their persistence. You are not obligated to sign any of their private corporate law documents. They will tell you that they have to send the paperwork to the state, which only proves their collusion. Tell them that you are not waiving any rights whatsoever and are not transferring any authority, power of attorney, to them under any condition. You name your child at your own will, not before them, and record the natural birth record of your seed offspring yourself, reserving and securing all of your natural and inalienable rights. Christian Black Code, 1724 AD. Should said issue child be the result of concubinage of the master and his slave, said master shall not only pay the fine, but be deprived of the slave and of the children, who shall be adjudged to the hospital of the locality, and said slave shall be forever incapable of being set free. The corporate state's birth certificate is a chattel property surety bond, negotiable instrument, which transfers the person's inalienable rights under a ward status to the corporate state under the bondage auspices of a straw corporate privilege. The bondage birth certificate also deceptively gives the corporate state the authority to sign the child up for the military draft. As soon as the child comes of age, her name is placed into a data system to be pressure contacted by the Demo Union States military. This is why military personnel appear at the public schools around the time the child comes of age, since the child is already filed as a state ward corporate property. Now let's just touch something quick since they talked about military. Alright, the draft, King Alfred plan. Few efforts of human behavior modification are more remarkable and more effective than the socio-military institution known as the draft. A primary purpose of a draft or other such institution is to instill by intimidation in the young males of a society the uncritical conviction that the government is omnipotent. He is soon taught that a prayer is slow to reverse what a bullet can do in an instant. Thus, a man trained in a religious environment for 18 years of his life can, by this instrument of the government, be broken down, be purged of his fantasies and delusions in a matter of mere months. Once that conviction is instilled, all else becomes easy to instill. Even more interesting is the process by which a young man's parents, who purportedly love him, can be induced to send him off to war to his death. Although the scope of this work will not allow this matter to be expanded in full detail, nevertheless, a coarse overview will be possible and can serve to reveal these factors, which must be included in some numerical form in a computer analysis of social and war systems. We begin with a tentative definition of the draft. The draft is an institution of compulsory collective sacrifice and slavery, devised by the middle-aged and the elderly for the purpose of pressing the young into doing the public dirty work. It further serves to make the young as guilty as the elders, thus making criticism of elders by the youth less likely. It is marketed and sold to the public under the label of patriotic national service. Once a candid economic definition of the draft is achieved, that definition is used to outline the boundaries of a structure called a human value system, which in turn is translated into the terms of game theory. The value of such a slave laborer is given in a table of human values, a table broken down into categories by intellect, experience, post-service, job demand, etc. Some of these categories are ordinary and can be tentatively evaluated in terms of the value of certain jobs for which a known fee exists. Some jobs are harder to value because they are unique to the demands of social subversion. For an extreme example, the value of a mother's instructions to her daughter causing that daughter to put certain behavioral demands upon a future husband, 10 or 15 years hence. Thus, by suppressing his resistance to a perversion of a government, making it easier for a banking cartel to buy the state of New York in 20 years. Such a problem leans heavily upon the observations and data of wartime espionage and many types of psychological testing, but crude mathematical models can be devised, if not to predict, at least to predetermine these events with maximum certainty. What does not exist by natural cooperation is thus enhanced by calculated compulsion. Human beings are machines, levers, which may be grasped and turned, and there is little real difference between automating a society and automating a shoe factory. These derived values are variable. These values are given in true measure rather than US dollars, since the latter is unstable, being presently inflated beyond Note, the follow-up page is missing. The following pages are commentaries from historians, scholars, and researchers. Right? So, back to nomen substantivum. Those among us who love truth, justice, and freedom must maintain, reserve, and sustain all rights inalienable, known and unknown. Only you are to name and record the natural birth of your child. It is not wise to participate in the corporate state's birth certificate usury contract. You may need to write a record of natural birth for your child and file it yourself at the county in your republic territory. According to natural birth in a family, recording the natural birth in a family Bible, a Quran, or the Torah, etc., is acceptable as a common law method of recording. The state franchise hospitals will certify a surety bond birth of your child, and then the state records it in the county records as a corporate entity, a straw man. By doing so, they are certifying and recording your child as their corporate property. Importance of names. A commonly read and well-known literary example of the importance of names, nomen, and attributes is expressed in Prophet Noble Juali's historical and documented speech as addressed to the Moors of Northwest Amexem, North America. The following are excerpts from a divine warning by the Prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name, and it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that delude to slavery. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be longer upon the earthland. Prophet Noble Juali. You need any more on names?
Yeah, thinking, as far as in law, when you hear when they say name, they talk about a corporate person, right?
Right.
And you hear, listen to, just say you listen to Fontez L talking,
yeah,
and they ask him what's his name.
Right.
And the first thing he gonna say, I'm Moors don't have names.
Right.
So it's like in one respect we use the word name.
Yeah.
We don't.
Well, I mean, it's just like black with so-called before it, right? So you can say black, but you say so-called before it. You know what I mean? You can say name, but you know, attach attribute to it, or appellation. You know, what's your name? Appellation. You know, so there's a distinction between, you know, the like Fonte says, you know, the Christian name, right, or the title, right? But all that is part of the mental exorcism. You know, getting ourselves clear and free of you know, things that we've adopted as something that it's not even what it is. You know, like person. You know, right? And you know, and it's a process. You know what I mean? It starts with recognizing that every time, you know, somebody says, "What's your name?" You know, Fonte should be playing in your head. You know. Oh, hold on a second. No, Moors don't have names. We have titles. My title is, you know, Kujwa Doel. You know, what do you mean you have a title? Well, that's it's the same as a name or whatever. Okay, because you're who you are. Okay, yeah, my name is Kujwa Doel. You know, because I'm not gonna sit here and teach you about title and name and what's the difference and whatever that. There's bigger stuff to worry about right now. You know what I'm saying? So, but comes back to the same thing about you know, at least put them on notice. You know, at least put them on notice that you have a title or you have an appellation. You know, and that, you know, I don't have a name because names are corporate. You know?
I heard a video that I posted with Sinasha.
Yeah.
Council meeting. They asked her name, and you heard what she said.
Yeah.
I don't have a name. I have a title.
Right. Yeah.
Speaking of names, I watched Queen Valeria, one of her videos on law.
Yeah.
She was saying if you step into the courtroom, of course you're not appearing and making a special appearance, but when they ask you, the judge asks you your name, you don't say my name is.
Right.
You say,
I am. Right.
So that's one. She said it's a big no-no.
Right.
Never say my name is.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Straight.
I was trying to watch your second part to your Servetus.
Oh, Servetus sustainability. Yeah.
Servetus sustainability video, but I couldn't get it to load. I tried like 3 days in a row.
Actually, what I found out today, because I couldn't get the last one I just posted, I couldn't get that to load. Mm-hmm. And then what I found out today is that for whatever reason, you know, all of a sudden, with some of the videos, you have to change the quality.
Okay.
Change the quality to a lower quality, then it would play.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, just adjust the quality. From I think it's at most of them are uploaded at 360 or something like that. So if you go to the
resolution I have it on, but I'll change it.
Yeah, just change it to I think 240 is the next one down.
Okay.
When I did that, it played.
Okay.
So, but you know, that's something new because that never happened before. So, you know, words getting out.
Oh yeah.
You know, yeah, words getting out.
Right. No. He asked, you know, my question about names when he was reading from the book.
Okay.
That's one of the books that I have. I selected on, you know, the order from RV.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But, so I brought the order forms over here for us to look at.
Okay.
And then see, I selected some books, and then I brought the order forms to see if there's any additional books that we wanted to select as a group and start getting into it.
Right.
And so, I got extra forms for everybody too, so.
And then another thing too that you could do with regard to the books and the study, and to make it easier for everybody, is go back to high school and start and do book reports.
Mhm.
Do book reports on the books. You know what I mean? Also book clubs. Have a book that everybody read once a week. You know what I'm saying? And then you come together at the end of the week and everybody puts their 2 cents in the pot of what they got from the book. You know what I mean? Because it's studying's a lot easier when we do it as a unit opposed to individual.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I concur.
Yeah.
Think we have time when you have questions?
They're short. I just wanted to ask you, Brother Cujo, this is what I've been thinking, since I've been, we've been coming together as classroom groups, and I've been watching your lecture, and I've been watching Todd's videos. Since we're like babies and, baby Morris is what I call it, baby Morris. There were some things that I've been thinking about as far as, I'm looking at the state of mind with the European. They understand the sciences, and, I think as things head towards the next year, they understand that their time is winding up anyways.
Right.
So they're going to do a lot of different things and put it this way, speeding up time to try to accomplish what they want to accomplish.
Right.
So,
which they're not going to accomplish, but
no,
they can try.
It's futile for them too.
Can't knock them for trying.
Right. They understand that. So I'm trying to get together a mental process of getting everything together as far as it's not just about paperwork, it's all in the mental, but
right.
You still have to have certain paperwork and all those things in order to declare your nationality. And so what I'm trying to do is put together as we go along through this process, and I know everything's on RV Bay and things of that nature, but nothing supplements doing the journey for yourself.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out a way to be able to bring it once we acquire the knowledge, like the 101 questionnaire, we know how to defend, at least our basic rights.
Yeah.
And we declared and claimed our nationality. When younger people come up to us and they are interested in, like a guide, so they can their step one. Because I was looking at something real simple, like I think probably the book Living Within Contracts would probably be one of the best things, one of the best books to get, because we're always being contracted with at all times.
Right.
I was listening to the lecture that you was talking about on the phone with the Lane sisters-in-law, and she was saying that when they call you on the phone and they're asking your name and your zip code and all those, they're right there, they're trying to contract with you.
Right.
And so just learning how to deal within contracts, like with your mail, how to address your mail properly, how people need to address your mail properly. Because we still have to deal with that straw person.
Right.
So we don't want to have the straw person's mail coming to the residence where we reside, do we? And if we do, how do we handle that? In care of this address?
Right.
Yeah. All those little intricacies is what I need to understand, what we need to understand so that we can proceed forward.
Well, a lot. It's just like a week ago at the temple. The boys had a meeting, right? And what the meeting was about was what to study, because everybody was, the people who are coming in, they're saying, well, well, there has to be a basic class so that, you know, we can understand the basic, and then, you know, some people are, well, you know, well, the advanced people need an advanced class so that they can understand, you know, the higher level of whatever. But what it all comes down to is study, right? Class is supposed to be there where we bring our education out of us and we put things together and get work done, right? So with you know, it's like I was saying with the book report, right? You do a book report on the how to live within contract books, right? And then everybody excerpts what they think are the most important points in the book, and then through that you compile a book that, because even that book is extensive.
It's a good idea.
You know what I mean? Like that's you know, it's small, but that's not really a beginner book. Like you have to know what contracts are and all that to even read that book. You know
There's
what I'm saying?
a lot of different types of contracts.
Right, yeah. You know what I'm saying? So if you could even make that book a smaller book, right? Only dealing with the key points, right? The key points about, you know, contracts, how to live within contracts, bam, 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 bam. Then, right, you compile that, you know, and now you have a better source, if you will. You know what I mean? Right? Or not a better source, but a more usable source for the neophytes.
Right. I know exactly what you're saying. It makes
Right?
perfectly good sense. And you know, what you just said is actually a way that we can, it's not about making money, because that can be a book that's not just applied to us as moors. That could be a book sold on eBay.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And a way for us to generate income for the nation.
Exactly. Exactly. Right?
Somebody gave me these books. These are some Modern Business Commercial Law Library. This one is on contract, damages, promissory notes, partnerships, and it's a bunch of different subjects.
Right.
I had these old books. They from, I think, 33.
For real.
That's perfect year too.
Yeah.
It's a perfect
Right?
year.
Yeah. So you know, and again, same idea. You know what I mean? You get those ones, you find the best ones out of those, dealing with the topic. Everybody, you do a little book report. Nothing, you don't have to be anything crazy like high school or whatever. Just, you know, a little book report. Compile all that information that you find out and make a revised version. You know? And then with that revised version, like you're saying, you can put that out there, sell it, give it away, you know what I mean? Do classes on it, you know? Because, you know, we you know, just like you say that your babies, you know, we're babies in this. You know what I mean? And, you know, if you talk to Taj will tell you, well, hey, you know, don't listen to what I say, research what I tell you and come tell me something. Because we don't all know what's going on with this thing. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has a little piece of it. You know, everybody has a piece of it. You know? And really that's what it's about Moors taking the onus on themselves to create this change that we want to see happen. You know, we're still in the mentality of waiting. You know, we're still in the mentality of let's see if, you know, this happens first before we do. You know, we should just be doing it.
Yeah, trying to make it happen.
Yeah, and you know, once we do it, then it's happening.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Opposed to waiting for it to happen. You know, it's like more saying, you know, oh yeah, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, go to the hospital until, you know, we get the Moorish hospital. Well, how about you build it? instead of sitting there waiting for it. You know? How about you build a hospital? You know? How about you build a Moorish library? How about you build a Moorish university? You know, we don't have to wait for grant money and all that stuff to do certain things. You know?
I heard people, we were in the shop, they were talking about, or actually complaining about this becoming a right to work state.
Right.
But it is now. Not something that it has been a long time.
Right.
But what I was saying to them, I said, well, it might seem like a bad thing to you because we've been conditioned. You know, we have to have this, we have to be like this. You know, then we have to have a union and this. I said, why don't we? I said, actually, when we didn't have those things, it seemed like we were doing better.
Right.
As a whole, because prior to the integration, we took care of each other.
Right.
We did much better.
We had our own
banks.
and we didn't have to lean on anybody else to take care of us, to do what we should be doing for ourselves.
Exactly. You know, yeah, and that means responsibility. You know, and we're some of the least responsible people around right now. You know, because of that same thing. We've been so conditioned to get. You know what I mean? That we don't do anything unless we're getting. You know, we have to get before we are inspired to just do something. You know what I mean? Like somebody has to, tell me thank you for me to do something for them. You know what I mean? Nobody's gonna just do stuff just because, how about that lady doesn't have to ask you, could you help me with the bags if she got 50 bags and, bags around her neck or whatever, she's falling over. How about just go grab some bags?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Right? The lady with the stroller, trying to kill herself getting off the bus with a stroller, why don't you just grab an end and make life easy on everybody? You know what I'm saying? But again, it's the mindset. Once we correct our mindset, all these things around us will change overnight. Like literally overnight, things will change. You know what I mean? But it does start with the individual taking the position of recognizing, like one of the Moors out here, brother Tallahassee always talks about, we're richer than we could even imagine. And everybody's complaining they don't have nothing. Just like we were saying in the beginning, we are the biggest spender, right? Amongst all the nations of the earth.
But the European, his ice water has to be colder than mine. That's a lot of the mindset with a lot of us.
Right.
His ice water is colder. I'm go over and spin with him.
Right. But then ice water's colder, but it's -20 and you need warm water. But we're still gonna go to him for the ice water, right? Getting goosebumps, drinking and all that.
Still that Willie Lynch mentality.
Still that Willie Lynch mentality. And what they say. If this thing could last for 300 years, maybe forever. If we
said 300 minimum, as many as possibly a millennium.
You know what I mean? If we drop this right, this thing will go on forever.
Yeah.
Because this thing, prior to integration, now a lot of us were sleepwalking still, but it was still more unity.
Right.
Prior to. They didn't do nothing but bust up the unity that was there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Just like the Rosewoods. There's Rosewoods all over the country at the time. There was black-owned cities all over the country.
Yep.
We had our own banks. We had our own grocery stores.
Yep.
Whatever. We were self-reliant back then.
Yep.
We wasn't going over the bridge for Mr. Charlie to do nothing.
Even though we still thought we were black, but
Even though we might have still thought we was black, we had our own communities where we were self-sufficient.
But
They didn't like that.
but see, again, it comes back to the fiat power, right?
Mm-hmm.
We could have did that back then because, you know, we all was poor folk.
Mm-hmm.
So we always gonna support each other because we all slaves and we good whatever.
but
then, you
now
know,
say we've been hoodwinked.
when we, right? Bamboozled. You've been had, run amok, right?
Wasn't lying.
Right? Straight, you know?
Education.
You know what I mean? You know, we sick.
You know, more education.
Yeah. Yep. So once we once we continue doing what we do, you know what I'm saying? It's a start in the right direction. You know? It's at least a start in the right direction.
Got 2 questions for you, Brother Cujo, real
Yeah,
quick.
no problem.
We're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been looking for a Black's Law Dictionary 4th edition. I can find a 4th edition deluxe, abridged, and revised. You can't find one unabridged anywhere. Do you know anywhere where you can find one that's unabridged?
Like for example, mine is revised,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And you can get by with it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's good right there.
What about the deluxe?
The deluxe, I think we have I think the Black's Law 5 that we have is deluxe. Also too, brother Casanova was saying to check
Yeah, I have a 4th.
people, right? Yeah, we got that one too. Yeah, right. So you can get by with those ones. You know what I mean? If you check little townships, you know, little townships, there might be people just selling stuff. You know what I mean? Little bookstores and stuff like that. You know, country folks. You know, you hit up some country folk, you might be able to find some.
Those two would be better to get revised or deluxe, or does it? It's about the same.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be
Too concerned
too
about
concerned. I mean, once you can
4th edition.
once you can get something, see, like this is 68, right? This one's copyright 68, right? This is 4th. So once you can get anything from 4th or lower, you know, whether it's revised, deluxe, or whatever, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. You know, you definitely don't want 8th and 9th edition and them ones. But if you can get a 4, you know, you might be able to spend 40, 50 notes to get a 4.
I also have a 6th edition. It says Centennial edition.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, also too, keep in mind, Bouvier's and Ballantyne's as well.
I got those.
Yeah. Right. You don't necessarily have to get blacks. You know, you can get Bouvier's, Ballantyne's. There's another one, I can't remember the name right now. But what's the name of it again? Bouvier's, Ballantyne's. I can't remember, it's slipping me right now. But
I'm slipping me too.
anything 4th or under, you'll be all right with that.
Okay.
You know, and then you realize too that, you know, the only real use that you're gonna get out of this is, you know, like what we're doing when you got class, or you know, you're going over a read and you're going through, you find words and stuff like that, you don't know whatever, but you know, I mean, you could, I guess you can use this like a book and just read it from A to Z. You know what I mean? Just like how they used to teach you to do with the regular dictionaries. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, alright.
I was gonna start with that, the test on, I think it was on RV,
Yeah.
for nationality.
Yeah.
All the certain words to define and understand.
Right. Yeah. Even that too, yeah.
That's where I'm gonna start.
Right. Even that's a good one for the neophytes. You know what I mean? Words, common words that you thought you knew the definition of or something like that. You know, you could have color in there and, you know, lawyer and attorney and, you know, person and, you know what I mean? You know, a little pamphlet, you know what I'm saying? You know, and then you could just put, every other Friday classes or whatever like that, you know what I'm saying? Get the word out to people, you know, because the word's getting out there, you know, when you're getting emails from Britain and stuff like that, the word's getting out there. I mean, people are coming around to this idea that it's not an idea. This is something that everybody's been doing for millennia. You know what I mean? This is something that people been on. We're the only ones that's been in the dark. You know?
My last question is, for, some of the seniors, we all have grandmothers, older aunts and stuff like that, and stuff on Jesus, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's about nationality. I mean, I'm not judging them because they stuck on that, but at the end of the day, once you start, evidence don't lie.
Right.
And it's a bitter pill for a lot of people to swallow because it turns everything upside down that we've ever known. You know what I mean? Some people can't wrap their head around it, but once they see it, and they see the time is winding up, it's like, oh, Lord Jesus, I'm retired now, all I get is Social Security. Are there any more that are able to even claim Social Security benefits without being tied into that system?
Yeah, if you in the declarations of indigenous people, yeah, in declarations there's a part talking about indigenous people being able to receive whatever from the state as any other individual of the state or whatever like that.
And I think probably the way you would do it, since you won't have Social Security number anymore once you claim your nationality, correct?
Right. But again, right, keep in mind.
More status on the contract is where it says other, you would just put your own box there and put more, right?
Right. Well, I mean, keep in mind as well that, we're richer than we think, right? And they have a $1 million lawsuit against the Social Security Administration for denationalizing them. Right?
Stealing our money.
Right? Like it's like, that the remedy is right there. You don't even need the Social Security. Just sue their ass in a class action. If all those elderly people get together and they say, you know what, even if they do it black, right? Even if they do it black, just to do something outside of the norm. They're just sitting there waiting for a check to come or whatever, you know what I mean? And with regard to, them being, Christian or, attached to Jesus or whatever like that, use the older people or the elderly people to extract the information about our history in the Americas and that we didn't come over here on a slave ship. Use them for that. Forget they call themselves Christian or whatever. Do your thing. you remember great grandma and having feathers and going to the bodega and stuff like that? You remember her talking about ever coming here on a slave ship? You remember, the uncle that, used to have the farm over on whatever, how did he lose that farm? You know what I'm saying? I thought that land was supposed to go to us. You know what I'm saying? The history of our people in this land, right? Because remember, a lot of our history and culture is oral, and those people have it, and they probably got, if we're talking about grandparents or whatever, like I don't even have grandparents no more. So if we're talking about great aunts and stuff like that, they probably got maybe 5-10 years tops left with all that information in them about we were here a very long time. You know what I mean? We never came over here as slaves. You know what I mean? We used to build our boat and ride, jump in the river and just go check uncle down there. We didn't know walking anywhere. Just build a boat. Because that was just our Aboriginal indigenous culture. You know what I mean? And you just ride the river. Like everybody, like every other civilized person in the Americas. The river was the first highway. So once we like you're saying, we already know that, they're not gonna convert into anything or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But, you show them the Holy Quran and those chapters with, Yahshua going places. You get that red book, show them the higher degrees that Jesus got when he went to Egypt and when he went to Asia and when he went to Europe and all these places. You know what I mean?
You say red book.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm clear.
Yeah, the red book.
Circle 7?
Yeah, sir.
Okay, I saw it. Okay.
Yeah. Red book. The Silent Brotherhood of the East.
I heard Aline say talking about that one.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the book that's in the attic chamber of the Moorish Science Temple that the heads don't want the people to have. The red book. You can probably get it from, I think you can get it from RV Bay. You double check on time here.
See if that's just on our side.
Yeah, the red book. And this is just outlining Jesus's travels when he went to Egypt and Asia, etc.
Brotherhood, you said?
Yeah.
Yep, it's there.
Yeah. The mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood of the East. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one to get to hit up for the older folks.
Okay. I guess we're gonna wrap it up.
All right, Morris. Yeah, we could let's close out with the prayer and we'll keep it moving. We'll hit up again in 2 weeks. Yeah, Morris.
Questions asked about the question.
5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islam. Peace, Morris.
We know it.
Peace and love.
Good night.
All right, peace.